It began just before midnight over the skies of Israel. The night was calm, too calm, until the first alarm tore through the silence. Sirens screamed from the hills of Jerusalem to the streets of Tel Aviv, their rising and falling wails echoing like cries of warning. People ran out of their homes, looking up in confusion. The sky was alive, flashes of white light streaking across the horizon like falling stars. But these weren't stars. They were drones. Hundreds of them. Each one carrying death. The Iron Dome defense system roared to life, spitting streaks of fire into the sky. Explosions painted the heavens orange and red. The sound was deafening, like the earth itself was being torn apart. Windows shattered. Dogs barked. Mothers screamed for their children. Soldiers scrambled into bases, shouting coordinates over radios. And then, from the far side of the sky, came something bigger. Faster. Stronger. Missiles, real missiles, not the small ones from past clashes. These were ballistic, built to crush bunkers and shatter steel. One after another, they rained down on military bases, power plants, and even open fields. By the time the sun began to rise over Israel, the sky was still burning. It was the largest direct attack ever launched by Iran on Israeli soil. And no one saw it coming this way. But this wasn't just a war story. It was a crime against peace. Because hours before those missiles flew, secret messages had already crossed digital lines. Someone inside the system, someone trusted, had known this was going to happen. And they had done nothing to stop it. Who were they? Why did they let it happen? That's where this story truly begins. Days before the missiles came, Tel Aviv felt almost normal. The streets were busy, the cafes full, and the smell of coffee and roasted sesame seeds filled the morning air. But inside a windowless control room deep under the Israeli Defense Ministry, a young intelligence officer named Daniel Reese was watching something strange. Daniel was only 27, an American liaison officer assigned to help Israel monitor drone activity in the region. He had transferred from a U.S. cyber division just 6 months earlier. On his screen were lines of digital data, endless code scrolling faster than the eye could follow. But something didn't add up. 4 weeks, radar logs showed an unusual pattern: unmanned aerial vehicles flying low over the Iraq-Iran border, vanishing into radio silence, and then reappearing hours later far from where they should have been. Daniel had flagged it twice. Each time, his reports were ignored. "Reese, you're chasing ghosts," his superior, Colonel Levi, had said with a tired smile. "Iran's always testing signals. It's nothing." But Daniel wasn't convinced. The drones weren't just testing, they were mapping. Gathering exact coordinates. He didn't know it yet, but those coordinates matched critical Israeli defense points. Meanwhile, in Tehran, deep inside a heavily guarded command center, General Hassan Rahimi stood before a digital map of Israel glowing red. Around him, senior officers murmured updates. "All systems are green, sir," one said. "The first wave is ready." Rahimi nodded. His face was calm, almost cold. "For Damascus," he said quietly. 2 weeks earlier, an airstrike had destroyed Iran's diplomatic compound in Damascus, Syria, killing several of their top officers. Tehran blamed Israel, though Israel never officially confirmed it. For Rahimi, it wasn't about confirmation. It was about revenge. What no one outside the room knew was that this attack, what would later be called Operation True Promise, had been planned for years, waiting for the right spark. The Damascus strike had lit that spark. Back in Tel Aviv, Daniel couldn't sleep. Something about those drone signals haunted him. He opened a classified terminal, bypassing standard protocol to run a deeper scan. What he found froze his blood. There were hidden signals buried inside the drone frequency, encrypted commands from an unknown server. The location? Somewhere near Isfahan, Iran. He rushed to his superior. "Sir, these drones aren't just mapping. They're communicating with strike systems. They're preparing for a launch." But Colonel Levi shook his head again. "Daniel, enough. We're not starting another panic. Go home." Daniel left, furious. But he didn't go home. He went to someone else, an investigative journalist named Sarah Keller, working for a U.S. network in Jerusalem. She had contacts inside intelligence circles and had once exposed an arms smuggling deal in Syria. When Daniel showed her the data, she leaned forward, eyes wide. "If this is real, it's not just a military operation," she said. "It's a coordinated strike. A warning before a major hit." Daniel nodded. "And no one's listening." They didn't know it then, but the clock was already ticking. Less than 72 hours remained before Iran launched its first wave. That night, across the border, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard loaded drones into underground silos. Engineers checked engines, batteries, and navigation systems. Each drone bore the green and white flag of the Islamic Republic. At 9:46 p.m. Tehran time, General Rahimi gave the final command. Send the message. The sky is ours tonight. The first swarm of drones lifted silently into the night sky. Dozens, then hundreds, their engines humming like a distant storm. They climbed higher, disappearing into the darkness, heading west, toward Israel. Back in Israel, Daniel sat alone in his apartment, refreshing his monitor one last time. Suddenly, alerts started flashing. Unidentified aerial objects, hundreds, crossing Jordanian airspace. He grabbed his phone and called Colonel Levi. "Sir, it's happening. They're coming." "What are you talking about?" Levi snapped. Daniel didn't have to answer. In the background, the first siren began to wail. Across Israel, air defense crews scrambled. Iron Dome batteries locked onto targets, interceptors streaking through the air. Each explosion looked like fireworks from a nightmare. Civilians huddled in shelters as glass shattered and buildings shook. In Jerusalem, Sarah Keller recorded live footage for her network. Her voice trembled as she spoke into the microphone. "This is unprecedented. Hundreds of drones and missiles are now in Israeli airspace. The government has confirmed it is a direct attack from Iran." In Tehran, General Rahimi watched the feeds in silence. His face remained expressionless as one of his officers reported successful hits on several military installations. But beneath that calm, his heart raced. Because even he didn't know that something, or someone, had tampered with the mission. Some of the drones weren't hitting the right targets. Some were veering off course, crashing in unexpected locations. One even landed, still armed, just miles from a civilian neighborhood. In a matter of minutes, what began as a military retaliation was turning into an uncontrolled disaster. As the sun rose over the smoking skyline of Tel Aviv, Israel's prime minister stood before the cameras, his face pale but steady. "This," he said, "is an act of war." Meanwhile, Daniel's phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. It read, "You were right. They're inside the system. It's bigger than you think." He stared at the message, heart pounding. Who sent it? How did they know? He was about to reply when his apartment lights flickered. The hum of electricity vanished. And from somewhere outside, a deep explosion shook the city again. This wasn't over. It had only just begun. The blast rolled through Tel Aviv like thunder hitting the ground. Daniel fell to his knees. His apartment went dark. The air smelled like burnt wires. Outside, car alarms screamed. He crawled to the window and saw a glow on the horizon. Another impact. Then another. He grabbed his bag, his laptop, and the hard drive with the drone data. He ran. On the street, people were rushing toward shelters. Parents carried kids. Drivers left cars in the middle of the road. A police officer yelled, "Basement. Move." Daniel's phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. They cut power to mask movement. "Meet me near the old bus depot. Come alone." Daniel hesitated. Was this a trap? He looked up, streaks in the sky, then bright pops as interceptors met drones. He made his choice. He ran for the depot. In Jerusalem, Sarah Keller held her camera close to her chest and hustled down the hotel stairs with other guests. The TV in the lobby flickered on backup power. The anchor spoke fast. "Officials say most weapons are being intercepted, but some have landed. People should stay sheltered. This is a direct attack from Iran." Sarah's hands shook, but her voice stayed steady. She had covered wars, storms, and crime scenes. But this felt different. This felt coordinated. And it felt like someone wanted chaos to hide something else. Her phone buzzed. A source in a US cyber unit, a quiet analyst she trusted, had sent a short note. "Your officer friend is right. The traffic pattern looks like a ladder. Someone is climbing up through our defenses. I think there's a backdoor. Name in old logs, Sablepath." She typed back, "Who built it?" The answer came fast, "Unknown. Might be a contractor string from years ago. Might be stolen code. Check old Damascus traffic, week before the strike." Sarah swallowed. Damascus again. She remembered the blast at Iran's diplomatic compound, footage of a building ripped open, dust and smoke and sirens. Many dead. That strike had lit the fuse. Now the fire was everywhere. Tel Aviv. The old bus depot looked abandoned, but a small emergency light glowed over the side door. Daniel pulled it open and stepped inside. The air was cool and smelled like dust. A man stood in the shadows. He wore a gray hoodie and a cap pulled low. "You're Daniel Reese," the man said in a low voice. "I needed to see if you were real." "Who are you?" Daniel asked. "Call me Cole," the man said. "I work with a private firm that consults on defense networks. Off the book sometimes. Your logs got passed to a friend of mine. He sent them to me. I've been tracking the same signal." "How did you get my number?" Cole smiled without humor. "Same way your enemies did." Another rumble shook the city. Dust fell from the rafters. Daniel stepped closer. "Are you the one who texted about someone being in the system?" "Yes. And it's not just one person," Cole said. "Sablepath isn't a normal backdoor. It's like a skeleton key. It lets someone piggyback on real alerts and hide fake ones. Tonight, it masked parts of the drone swarm until they were almost on top of you." "Who has that kind of access?" Daniel whispered. "Someone with old credentials. Someone who used to build or test parts of these systems. Or someone who bought those credentials from a leak," Cole said. "I traced some command packets to a relay near Isfahan, like you did. But they don't end there. They bounce again. Final hop looks like a small server farm outside. Lod." Daniel blinked. "Inside Israel?" "Inside," Cole said. "That's the crime. The war is real. The weapons are real. But the signal that opens the gate? That's coming from a building 15 miles from here." Daniel's stomach flipped. "So this isn't only an attack from Iran. Someone on this side is helping make it worse." Cole nodded. "Or helping make sure it can't be fully stopped." The sirens faded for a moment, then returned. The two men stood in the quiet hum of the depot. "Why tell me?" Daniel asked. "Because you flagged it first and no one listened. You'll move faster," Cole said. "Also, I can't walk into a military base and say, 'Hi, I found treason on your network.'" "You can." Daniel thought of Colonel Levi brushing him off, the closed doors, the slow emails. "Can you prove the LOD server is live right now?" Cole pulled out a tablet, tapped a few keys, and turned the screen. A simple graph showed spikes, short, sharp bursts of traffic every few minutes, tagged with the same signature string, Sablepath. "See the intervals?" Cole said. "That's timing a ladder. The next burst is due in 2 minutes." Daniel stared at the clock on the wall. He made a choice. "We go there now." "We?" Cole asked, raising an eyebrow. "You think I'll sit still while someone inside our fence opens the door to ballistic missiles?" Daniel said. "We go. Right now." They ran back into the street. The sky flashed again. The city's power was still patchy. Cole's car was an old sedan, nothing special, the kind nobody looks at twice. They climbed in. He drove without the lights for a block, then clicked them on. As they sped south, the radio crackled with updates. Large wave intercepted over the Negev, another over the Golan, several hits near air bases, no exact casualty count, shelter in place, do not travel. They were doing the exact opposite. "Sarah will need to know," Daniel said, typing with his thumb. "Heading to Lod. Backdoor likely local. Watch for names Sablepath and Damascus logs." She wrote back at once, already on it. A week before Damascus, someone scraped network maps from a third-party vendor. Company name, Novatech Systems. US small contractor. Went bankrupt 2 years ago. Their old QA engineer moved to Israel last year. Daniel looked up. "A contractor." Cole nodded grimly. "That's how it happens. Not always spies. Sometimes it's debt. Sometimes blackmail. Sometimes ideology. Sometimes someone just sells a tool and doesn't care who buys it after." They passed a checkpoint. Daniel flashed his liaison badge. The guard squinted, then waved them through. The road opened up, then narrowed again as they entered an industrial strip. Warehouses. Chain-link fences. Dark windows. A dog barked somewhere behind a wall. Cole slowed. "Server farm is supposed to be in building 14, he said. Says it's a data backup center. But the power draw tonight is wrong. Too much load for a place that's supposed to be sleeping." They stopped a block away and got out. The air was cooler here. Daniel felt the weight of what they were doing. He reminded himself, this is a crime scene. If the signal is here, this is evidence. Evidence of sabotage during a real attack. Evidence that could save lives. They moved along the shadows until they reached a side door with a keypad. Cole pulled a small device from his pocket. "No bombs, no guns," he said. "Just a cheap trick." "What does it do?" Daniel asked. It hears the code tones and guesses the rest. He held it near the pad. The next time someone came in or out, it would catch the sound. But the building was quiet. Too quiet. Then Daniel noticed something. On the door frame, low to the hinge, fresh scrapes on the paint. Someone used a physical bypass, he whispered. He pressed the handle. The door clicked. It opened an inch. They slipped inside. Humming filled the hallway. That was the server sound, steady and deep, like 1,000 bees in a bottle. Blue lights blinked down at the end. Cole pointed. They moved. And then, footsteps. 2 people, hard and fast, coming from the other side. Daniel and Cole ducked behind a row of stacked boxes. 2 men passed, both in dark work coats, each with a security badge. Not military. Private. One said, "Next burst in 40 seconds. Make sure the load balancer stays muted. If the watchdog sees this, it shuts us down." The other nodded. "Our friend said we only need one more ladder. Then the key burns itself." They disappeared through a glass door. Daniel and Cole stared at each other. "You heard that?" Daniel whispered. "Yeah. The key burns itself," Cole said. "That means Sablepath will erase the trace after this last cycle. We won't be able to prove it." Daniel's mind raced. "If we cut power, the net will flag it and the watchdog will trip. Too late. If we alert the base without proof, they might think we're panicking again. We need something clean. Something that shows the last hop before it vanishes." Cole tapped his tablet. "We can mirror the port. Copy the exact traffic during the burst. But we need physical access to the rack." "Where is it?" Daniel asked. Cole pointed to a glass room beyond the hall. Inside, rows of servers blinked. A red cabinet stood apart, locked with a key and a digital strip. They crept forward. A camera looked down at the door. Cole pulled his cap lower and held up a sticker, just a smiley face. He stuck it on the lens. "That works?" Daniel asked, surprised. "It doesn't block," Cole said. "It just gives them something else to look at." They slipped into the glass room. The hum grew louder. Cole found the network switch and plugged in a small device, fast and careful. "When the burst hits, this copies packets to my tablet," he said. "We get the source and destination, signatures, the whole ladder. Enough to prove the relay in this building is the final hop." "How long?" Daniel asked. "Next burst is 20 seconds, Cole said. Daniel stood by the door, listening for footsteps. His heart thudded in his ears. He thought of the first wave of drones, the sirens, the kids in shelters, the old couples holding hands in stairwells. He thought of Sarah, alone in a hotel hallway, telling the world what she knew while the air shook. He thought of the men in the hall just now, their calm voices, their badges, their crime. 5 seconds. 4. 3. 2. The tablet screen lit with lines of data. Numbers, letters, arrows. Cole whispered, "Yes, yes, there it is. Signature string, Sablepath. Source, internal node 67. Destination, relay LOD 14. Next hop, external node, ISFN proxy 03. It's live. It's all live." "Got it?" Daniel asked. "Recording," Cole said. 10 more seconds. Footsteps again. The glass door handle turned. Daniel's mouth went dry. He held still. The door opened. One of the men stepped in, holding a coffee cup. He looked up, and froze. He saw Daniel first. Then Cole. Then the cable in the switch. Time slowed. The man's mouth opened. The coffee cup fell and hit the floor. The hum of the servers swallowed the splash. He reached for an alarm button on the wall. Daniel moved. He grabbed the man's wrist and pushed it away from the button. They stumbled. The man tried to twist free and swing, but Daniel held on. "Stop," Daniel said. "This is illegal. You're sabotaging defense systems during an attack." The man sneered. "You don't understand what you're protecting." Cole pulled the cable and pocketed the device in one motion. "We have enough," he said. "We need to go." The man shoved Daniel backward and lunged for the alarm again. A loud beep sounded. Red lights flashed. Somewhere in the building, a siren began to ring. The other man shouted from the hall, "They're inside. Lock it down." Cole grabbed Daniel's arm. They ran out of the glass room, down the hall. The building was a maze of boxes and cables. Doors clicked shut as locks engaged. They turned a corner and found a metal exit. It was sealed by an electronic bolt. "Move," Cole said. He knelt and pulled another small tool from his pocket, a thin loop of wire and a patch lead. He worked fast. "Can we get out?" Daniel asked. "Maybe," Cole said through his teeth. "They're trying to trap us until someone with a gun shows up." Daniel looked back. Shadows moved at the far end of the hall. Voices. They were coming. His phone buzzed. A message from Sarah. "We matched the contractor. The QA engineer is named Owen Black. He has debts. He signed a lease near Lot, 3 blocks from your location. I sent your data to my editor and a legal team. If you get me proof, we go public." Daniel typed without looking. "We have proof. Trying to get out." The bolt clicked. The door popped open an inch. "Go," Cole said. They pushed into the night. The air outside felt cold and huge. They ran along the building toward the street. Behind them, the door rattled. Someone was trying to force it open. Cole tossed the device into Daniel's hands. "If one of us gets caught, you keep that. Get it to a base. Or to Keller. Or both." "What about you?" Daniel asked. "I'll be right behind you," Cole said. A black van turned the corner and sped toward them, headlights off. It braked hard, blocking the lane. 2 men stepped out, same dark coats, same badges. Not soldiers. Private. One held a baton. The other held a taser. "Stop," the one with the taser yelled. "Hands where we can see them." Daniel slowed, breathing hard. Cole didn't. He sprinted for the low wall on the side and vaulted it. The taser cracked and lit the air where Cole's leg had been a second earlier. Daniel raised his hands slowly, the device tucked under his jacket, pressed against his spine. "Listen," he said. "What you're doing is a crime. You're helping an enemy attack during a war. People could die. You don't have to be part of this." The man with the baton smirked. "You think this is about sides? This is about a reset. About control. About ending a cycle the hard way." The taser man stepped closer. "Give us the drive, and we'll let you walk." "You can't let him walk," the baton man said. "He's already seen too much." Daniel looked from one to the other. He felt very calm all of a sudden. He took a steady breath. He thought of a trick an old instructor had taught him. When someone expects you to freeze, move. He moved. He pivoted hard to the left and threw his weight at the baton man. The baton grazed his shoulder, a hot streak of pain, but Daniel's momentum carried them both into the van's door. The taser cracked again, missed. Daniel shoved away, spun, and ran for the corner. "Stop him," the taser man shouted. Daniel sprinted, hugging the building, the device thumping against his back. He didn't know where Cole was. He didn't know if more men were coming. He only knew he had to get the proof out. He reached the corner, and froze. A new sound filled the air. Not a drone. Not a missile. A different roar, low and steady, growing louder. He looked up. A military helicopter swept in, lights off, dark against the night, rotors slamming the air. It hovered low over the lot. A spotlight blasted on, turning the ground into daylight. The men by the van threw their hands up to shield their eyes. A loudspeaker boomed, "Freeze! Security forces! Do not move!" Daniel blinked against the glare. He couldn't tell if this was Israeli security or something else. The helicopter angled, and for a heartbeat he saw a white emblem on the side, official, but not one he recognized from the base. "Drop the device," a voice ordered from the speaker. "Now." Daniel's fingers tightened around the small hard drive under his jacket. He took one step back. The helicopter shifted, the beam tracking him like a finger. "Drop it, or we fire." From somewhere on the other side of the wall, Cole shouted, "Don't move." The light swung for a split second toward the shout, and in that sliver of darkness, Daniel saw it, the emblem again, clear this time. Not army. Not police. A private security crest. The rotor wash whipped dust into the air. The spotlight snapped back onto him. The loudspeaker voice was closer now, almost on top of him. "Final warning." Daniel stood there in the white blaze, heart pounding. He had proof of a crime in his hand, and everyone who wanted it was closing in. He had to choose. And in that single breath before he moved, the whole world seemed to hold still. Sirens far away, rotors above, men by the van, a friend shouting from the dark. Then the helicopter's door slid open, and a masked figure leaned out with something long in his hands. A flash. A crack. And the device in Daniel's jacket grew suddenly, terribly hot.